بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. If you ask me about love and wanna know about it, my answer will be it's everything about Allah, the pure love to our souls, the creator of you and me, the heavens and the whole universe, the one that made us whole and free, the guardian of his true believers. So when the time gets hard, there's no way to turn. As he promised, he will always be there to bless us with his love and his mercy. 'Cause as he promised, he will always be there. He's always watching us, guiding us, and he knows what's in our little hearts. So when you lose your way, to Allah you should turn. 'Cause as he promised, he will always be there.
ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا ومن يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله. وقال الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. وقال الله تعالى من قتل النفس بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا ومن أحياها فكأنما أحيا الناس جميعا. Didn't need to use a speak mic, no need. The sound is okay. There is no need for use mic. So or is it needed? Maybe it will be okay.
Is it okay if he doesn't use a mic or you want to use a mic?
So there will be no sound maybe if I can use mic.
No.
So, okay. So, I start in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. And I quote from the Quran, a part of the words, which is verse number 32, the chapter number 5, which I read just a while ago. And we say, whoever kills any human being, that in retaliation of murder, or to make mischief in the land, as if to kill all mankind. And whoever saves a life of a human being as if he saved the life of the whole mankind. So the killing of the innocent human being is a big crime in Islam, it's a big sin in Islam, and it's not just you kill one human being, but it's you kill whole mankind. So it's no way, even whatever the agenda, or even whatever the cause, either someone is saying that he is looking for a justice, and he was being unjust, and then he used this method to killing all the innocent human beings. It is not allowed. Even though some Muslims might say that they have a right to do this, but Islam doesn't allow this. The book, which we believe the Quran, it doesn't allow this, and I quote from here, that is said here, whoever kills a human being, not because he kills someone, then you have to bring him to the court and he should be killed. That's a punishment in the Islam, in the Quran, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And there's the same punishment which was in the Mosaic law, the law of Moses, life for life, eye for eye. So in that case you can kill someone, but not myself. If my brother is killed, I cannot just go and shoot him because I'm making a violation. I should go to the court, to the Islamic court. So that's one of the reasons you can kill someone, because he killed someone. Or either those people who are making mischief in the earth, they are mischief makers. They destroy the land, they destroy the buildings, they destroy the farms, the fields, they kill the human beings, or they rape the women, or they make the pedophile having a sexual relation with the children. They are all mischief makers. So you can kill in that case, but not individuals, but through the court, through the system. So bombing, or suicide bombing, or bombing in the malls, or bombing in the bus, or in the public places, it's all are prohibited in Islam. Even if some Muslims say that it is a right for do to them because they have a situation like this, Islam does not allow this. It's totally prohibited. Because we ourselves, we also go with our families in the malls. We also go to the public places. And if the bomb will be exploded, we will be killed also. So no Muslim with the right mind will ever say that's allowed. It's not allowed. It's prohibited. And it's not only a prohibition, it's not only the prohibited, it's as compared to killing whole mankind. You are killing whole mankind if you kill one innocent human being. But the problem now, the media is making a war against Muslims. The media is like news channels, or the magazines, or the internet, and even the Hollywood movies today. If you see the Hollywood movies nowadays, before maybe 30 years ago, the villains was like Japanese, or the German, or the Russians. That is the movies before. In the movies before, the villains, the one who are evil in the movies before, they were Russians or Japanese or some other people. But nowadays, the movies are starting to make a new villains, the new evil people in the movies, and they are terrorists, and they are Muslims. So media is making a war against Muslims, which is unjust. First of all, I supposed to start with the greeting. So all the respected people here, the professors, the teachers, the students, I greet with all of you with Islam, the greeting of Islam, which is Assalamu Alaikum, which is the same greeting of Prophet Isa, Prophet Jesus, Prophet Moses, and the simple meaning in Arabic or in Hebrew. Even the Prophet Jesus is mentioned in the Bible that when he goes to the upper room, he says to his disciple, Shalom Alaikum. So I am giving the same greeting to all of you, Assalamu Alaikum. The meaning in English is peace be upon all of you. Or in Tagalog, kapayapaan sa inyo lahat. And you can greet me back with saying Wa Alaikum Salam, that peace be upon you also. So I say Assalamu Alaikum. Thank you very much. So the topic today is a very, very interesting topic. There is no other topic than that, even for me, even for the world today. Islam, Jihad, and terrorism. In the world today, the media is making a very, very big black propaganda everywhere in the world. Either it's the BBC, CNN, Fox News. They all say the Muslims are terrorists. And even some they go extreme, they say Islam is a terrorist religion. Islam teaches the terrorist. But they already give the one quotation from the Quran, that Islam, the Quran said, if anyone killed a human being, an innocent human being, as if he killed whole mankind. So it's very clear now, the book of the Islam, the Quran, it said the killing of one innocent human being as if you killed the whole mankind. And that's the reason, and then saving of one human being is if it's saving the life of whole mankind. That's why I'm planning to establish a charity hospital in this country, so that we'll be saving the life. Not killing the life, but to saving the life. And I pray to Allah that Allah will give us success for that plan, inshallah. The meaning of inshallah is God willing. So the media is saying that Muslims and Islam is the trouble. They are the problem. But in fact, Islam and the true Muslims, they are not the trouble, rather they are the solution. If it is the true Muslims. Not Muslims by names. You can find maybe some Muslims by names in Mindanao, and they kidnap someone and they ask you for ransom. They are not true Muslims. Because they are practicing against Islam. In Islam, the kidnapping is not allowed. In Islam, the killing of the innocent human being is not allowed. The ransom is not allowed. If you kidnap some civilians and you ask for the ransom, it's prohibited in Islam. So they are just Muslim by names, but not by practice. The Islam is not a religion which you can get through inheritance. You cannot get it with inheritance. Because Islam, in Arabic, it's a word. And the meaning of Islam is aslim. And aslim meaning is to submit. The Quran said, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّهُ أَسْلِمْ قَالَ أَسْلَمْتُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. And when your Lord said to Ibrahim, Prophet Abraham, submit, aslim. And he said, Aslamtu لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, I submitted to the Lord of the world. So Prophet Ibrahim, we believe that he was a Muslim because he was submitting to the will of one God, the true God, the Creator. So we true Muslims and Islam are not the problem for humanity, but we are giving a solution. All kind of solution. Islam is the complete way of life. Every aspect of the life is covered by Islam, including the law. The law today is the democratic laws in the world today. Or 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the more superior power was the communist. The USSR, the Russia. The China was adopting the communist law. The India was started to apply the communist laws. The most of the world was going towards the communism. And Islam fought against the communism. The Muslims in Afghanistan, they fought against the communism, and there is no communism as a power today. They are only remnants of the communism today. But they were defeated in Afghanistan by the Muslims. They fought against the Russia. They fought against the communism. And they destroyed the communism. That's why we are safe today. The communists were able to kill more than 100 million people. The communists were able to kill, like the Joseph Stalin from Russia. These people, they were able to kill 100 million people in just few decades. And who saved the humanity from the communism? The Muslims. You can read the history. It's a very new history. Just 1970 something, below the some 1980 onward. When the Red Army was run away from Afghanistan, when they occupied, and when the Muslims fight back, they defend their land, they defend their religion, they fought to the communists, and the communists, the Red Army, would run away from Afghanistan. And after that, all the countries, they stopped be afraid with the terrorism of the communists. The communists, they terrorized and they killed 100 million people to terrorize, to rule on them, to make the power of communism. But when the Muslims defeated them, the people were out of the terrorism of the communism. And they were stuck and they were out of the communist rule. And then there were many allies, which we'll discuss just in a while. So the topic here is Islam, Jihad and terrorism. So these are the three different things. Islam, which I give a little definition, that is submitting your will to the Creator. That's a great definition of Islam. There are rules and regulations. That you have to pray, and you have to fast, and you have to give charity, and you have to go for pilgrimage in Mecca, where the mosque or the worship place was built by the Prophet Abraham. And there are all around the life, you have to do something. You have to tell the truth. You should not tell the lie. You have to honor your promise. You have to take care of your neighbors. You have to take care of your visitors. You have to take care of your colleagues. You have to be kind. You have to be just. These all are the aspects of Islam. You have to do everything good. You should not kill innocent human beings. And you should not be harsh. You should not speak back to the people. You should be talk in a nice way. These all are the teachings of Islam. And there are more explanations which we have no enough time to speak about the topic of Islam completely. The second point of the topic is the Jihad. Jihad is also an Arabic word, which comes from Jahda. Meaning of Jahda is struggle. You struggle. You struggle anything for any goal. But in the Islamic terminology, when you say Jihad, you struggle for the cause of God. You struggle for Islam. Literally, you all here in this university, you are making Jihad also. Because you are struggling. You are struggling for your goal. You want to become a doctor or engineer or scientist. So you are doing a Jihad. That's the meaning of Jihad. The struggle. So Islam is the essential of Islam to do the Jihad, to struggle. And what I'm doing right now here, that I'm struggling to speak about Islam and speak to defend Islam. And I'm also doing a Jihad. So do you afraid with this Jihad? I'm sure you will not afraid with this kind of jihad. That I am doing a jihad. Even the Quran says to make jihad with this Quran, the jihad al-kabira. Wajahidu bihi jihad al-kabira. So even we can make jihad with the Quran. To speak to speak about Islam and to defend Islam with those allegations in the media. So the communism, we will discuss later. The third part of the lecture today, the topic today is the terrorism. There's a third part, the Islam, Jihad and terrorism. And that's the most interesting. What is the terrorism? Because you are all educated, I don't need to speak in Tagalog. The terrorism, the initial word in the terrorism is the terror. Terror. T-E-R-R-O-R. And that's the simple meaning, to terrify someone. There is no other meaning of terror, to terrify someone. Or, takutin, maybe in Tagalog, correct? Takutin. You have to fear someone. You have to terrify someone for your agenda. You have to make someone traumatized. You have to do some action systematically with killing and murder and bombing and attacking and destroying, destabilizing. You have to do all this to traumatize, to fear someone, to terrify someone. So that's terrorism. And those who do these actions, they are terrorists. And then now, the media say, the terrorists are the Muslims. The terrorism belongs to Islam. And if you go to the history of the mankind, the Prophet Adam, he has the two sons. It's mentioned in the Quran. Just before the words we read, just before that, there is an incident mentioned about the two sons of Adam. And the one son of Adam, whose name was Habil, and the other one was Kabil. But the Christians, they're known as Abil and Cain. And the Cain wanted to kill Abil. And he said, I'm going to kill you. So he is terrorizing him. He wants to fear him for that agenda which he had. So Cain is telling to Abil, I'm going to kill you. And Abil is not fearful. He said, if you kill me, you get my sin. So that was the first instance, that was the first incident of terrorism in the humankind. When the Cain was terrorizing his brother Abil. That's what mentioned in the Quran. But when you go to the later history, you will find so many tyrants who terrorize people. You can find the Romans before the Prophet Jesus' time, when the Romans were keep on killing the world for their power, and they wanted to be superpower, so they terrorized people. The other side of the east, the west was the Romans, the Byzantines, but on the east was the Persians. They wanted to be superpower, and that's the east and west. They all the time they have a cold and hot war for superpower, to become a superpower. When the Prophet Muhammad came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the peace be upon him, he brought the justice. He fight against the terrorism. He fight against the Romans, the Byzantines, and the Persians. And he brought the justice, and the Muslims were ruling the world more than 1,000 years, most of the part of the world with the justice. You can check the history. Go and check the history. The Muslims were ruling the most of the part of the world with justice for almost 1,000 years. Even the Spain, the Muslims were ruling in Spain for 800 years. And when the Muslims were ruling the Spain for 800 years, there was no injustice there. There was no terrorism there. There was no murdering of innocent people there. If you were able to see the movie, the very very popular movie, The Kingdom of Heaven. It's not made by a Muslim. The producer was Scott Ridley, and then the actors were mostly the non-Muslims, and they make the movie and they show when the Muslims get back to Jerusalem, the Holy Land, the Salahuddin, the Europe they call him Saladin, when he entered and he asked to the Christian leader that if you surrender to Jerusalem, we are not going to kill you. And that man, the Christian leader, the blacksmith, he told to the Saladin, how you can do that? When our forefathers came to the Holy Land, they killed every child and every woman. And they killed almost 70,000 Muslims in a day in the Holy Land in Jerusalem. But when the Muslims get back to Jerusalem, What this Saladin did, the Muslim leader, he said, I will escort all of you to your land. Not only you just go, but I will escort, my army will escort you and bring you to your land safely. That's the teachings of Islam. When you have the power, you bring the justice and don't kill anyone. Not to anyone, but to give the peace. And you can watch this movie, just buy the Kingdom of Heaven and watch the movie and you see the truth about Islam and about the Muslims. The Muslims are never been the terrorists. And even today, there are some Muslims, might be the black sheep, they are given the bad name, but they are not Muslims by practice, but they are just Muslims by name. So now, we have the history. So Romans and Byzantines were destroyed by the Muslims 1400 years ago, and they brought the justice. And when the Muslims start to lose the power, the last biggest empire was in Europe, which was ruling the most of the part of the world, is Ottoman Empire. When the Ottoman Empire started to lose, the British started to take control. The British started to take control. The French started to take control. The Spanish before the Spanish and Portuguese, they were controlling the world. And they were terrorizing. The Portuguese and Spanish, which was known as the conquistadors, the Spanish and Portuguese conquistadors, they went to South America. They colonized the South America. They murdered the people in South America. That's the history. The Portuguese, the Catholics and the Portuguese were known as the conquistadors. They went to the South America and they killed, murdered, destabilized, traumatized, feared them, terrified them, terrorized them, and they killed 59 million people in South America. 59 million. That's the definition of terrorism. 56 million people were killed in South America. So can you just imagine the 56 million people were killed in the name of terrorism and no one is called in history today? It's a terrorism. The Christopher Columbus, all of you must know that because it's your subject. The Christopher Columbus, sent by the Ferdinand and his wife, the Queen Isabella, and he was looking for, not for America, but he was looking for India. And India is a big civilization. You don't need to say that we discovered India, but you just go India. Or you don't need to say that we discovered America, because the time when the Christopher Columbus arrived in America, there were Muslims living in America. There's the latest history now. There's the latest research now. The Muslims were living there. The people were living in the 3-story buildings that time, for a few hundred years ago. The people were living in America with the 3-story buildings. But the Christopher Columbus was looking for India. And he learned from Muslims how to travel in the sea. And he was able to reach, not India, but he was reached to America. But he still called the people Indians. So even today, the native people in America, they are known as Red Indians. But that was not India, and the people living there are not Indians, but they were different tribes, they were different race. But the Christopher Columbus, he entered and they started to kill, they started to terrorize, and the same continues the troops from Spain and Portugal. And they killed in several years. They killed 89 million people. They killed 89 million people in America, in North America. 89 million people were killed in North America. To terrorize them, to rule on them, to colonize them, to occupy them, and to get their resources. And no one is calling it terrorism. That was happening in America. 89 million people were terrorized and put into death. So the rest of the people, they have to surrender because they killed the massive killing, the mass murder in America. So 56 million plus 89 million. And then the French and Dutch, they also went to the same place in America and they killed around 32 million people in that period of 200 years. And then you have the Aboriginals in Australia, and New Zealand. And even today they are traumatized. They cannot think properly until now because of the terrorized to them by the British. In that way, they are still traumatized. Even the generations are traumatized. They cannot get out of that fear. So Aboriginals are in very bad condition in Australia and New Zealand. They killed 60 million Aboriginals to take control of the Australia and New Zealand. And who killed them? The British. And they were not Muslims. The Portuguese and Spanish who killed in South America and North America, they were not Muslims. And nobody called them terrorists. Nobody called these all acts terrorism. In India, in China, the British killed, in India and China, more than 90 million people were killed by the British. In India and China. There were the cities in China, they were given opium by the British to control on them. They made drug addict to the millions of people in China to control on them. And nobody called it terrorism. And we must discuss about the terrorism in this land. The land here is known as the major continent, the major region here is Luzon, Visayas and Mindanao. Luzon, Visayas and Mindanao. Now, they are bombarding the misinformation about Islam, that Muslims are terrorists. So before we go for the recent events, we must go for the historical events. Is there any history available in the Philippines which can say the Muslim terrorized the people here? I can ask this question to all the historians in the Philippines. Is there any evidence or is there any book or any writing where the historian is writing that the Muslims were used to be terrorists in this land? You will never find it. You only find in the 12th century the Muslims from China and Muslims from Arabia, they came here as traders, as doctors and engineers, and they introduced Islam. You will never find that the Muslims came here and terrorized the people here. You will never find in the history. Not single historian will say this, because they know the Muslims never terrorized people here. They came here as a peaceful mission. They came as the traders, the merchants, and they introduced Islam. They introduced Islam in this land, in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The name was not Philippine yet. The people living in this land, the basic race is Malay. Same like Malaysians and Indonesians. The Filipinos and Philippine was not introduced yet. Those words were not introduced yet in the 12th century. The people, they were same like Malaysians and Indonesians. The Malaysians are Malay, or the Indonesians, they have a Malay race, and the people in the Philippines, they have a Malay race. Even today, even though they have a mix with different nations because of intermarriages or some other, of course, the intermarriages, and of course the languages are mixing with the other languages and so many other things. So nowadays, you can so-called like mestizos or mestizas and etc. But the basic race, when you go to your history, your basic race is Malay. If the person is not mixed with the other nations, the forefather were not married to other, the mother or father, the grandfather or grandmother, they were not married to other nations, they are still Malay. You can compare yourself. If you get a person who is a pure here, pure race, go in Malaysia, nobody will think you are from Philippines. They will think you are from Malaysia. You are not similar to any other people except the Malaysians and Indonesians. You are the copy of the Indonesians and Malaysians. And the Indonesians and Malaysians, they are Malay, the race is Malay, and the religion is, majority is Islam. But you were changed by a terrorist, your race, your identity, and your religion were changed. And those terrorists were Spanish. You will never find a Muslim terrorist here, where even though they came here before the Christianity, before the Spanish, in the 12th century, but they never terrorized. They never killed the innocent human beings. But when the Spanish came here in the 16th century, of course you know very well the Ferdinand Magellan, who was a priest, known as a priest, and who attacked and who was killed by the Lapu-Lapu. That's a very common history. And then after that, the Spanish troops came in continuously and they killed millions of people in this land. It is a history. They killed millions here in Luzon and Visayas. But those who are living in those on those land in Luzon, Visayas, in Mindanao Delta, most of them were Muslims. That's the very well history. Not only in the Philippines you can find this history, maybe some people they might cover it, but you can see this history all around the world. That the people living in those islands, we have 7,000 islands here, and in those islands, the majority of the people living, the civilized people, they were Muslims. And uncivilized people like Ikrut or Aitas or Manyang, they are still available. They are uncivilized, even today they are uncivilized. Some of them they are civilized, but the many of them are still uncivilized. So the same story, when the Spanish came in the 16th century, the people here were Muslims. In Manila, the people living were Muslims. In Binondo, the people living were Muslims. In Batangas, the people living were Muslims. All around those islands, the people living were Muslims. In Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. But when the Spanish came here, infiltrate the land here, they started to murder and rape and robberies, knockout, and everything they did, and to terrorize the people here, and they gave only two options. The Spanish say, you become a Catholic, leave the Islam, and become a Catholic, otherwise we are going to kill you. They have the sword, which is sipada. So they put like this, it becomes a sword, it becomes a cross. So when they carry like this, it's a spada, it's a sword. But when they put like this, they bow down to the cross, so you are safe. So that's a terrorism. They terrorize people to change from Muslim or Islam to Christianity to become Catholics. And that's the history. But nobody called terrorists. The Spanish, they make so much trouble here. They kill so much people here. Even the biggest hero in this country, everybody knows the Jose Rizal is the biggest hero. Who killed him? Not the Muslims killed him, but the Spanish killed him. Why they killed him? Because he won the freedom. And the people are very happy that they have a freedom today. They called on June 12, Kalayaan. And the meaning in English is freedom. But I said there is no freedom here until now. Because when the Spanish came here, the king that time, he was King Felipe. The King Felipe II. There was a King Felipe I, he was a King Felipe II. So when they controlled the Luzon and Visayas and they terrorized them and killed them and converted them to the Christianity to make them Catholics, and the Muslims, they fled to Mindanao and they resisted for many hundred years. And they are still Muslims today. So those islands which controlled by the Spanish troops in the name of the King Felipe, he said these islands, this place will be called Filipinas. So the Filipinas is, you can, maybe I can write it here if you have any metal pen.
Yes, yes.
So the Filipinas was the name given by the Spanish in the name of the King Felipe. And they say, there was a decree, I read in the internet, there was a decree, the decree said, those people who are controlled by the Spanish now, by the troops of the King Felipe, they will be called Filipino. And that's the Tagalog word, Felipe Alipino. So you can see it here. Filipinas. So here is the name of the King Felipe. There's the King Felipe. That's the King Felipe. So your name, your country name is in the name of King Felipe. And if you can see the people living here, Filipino. So that's the composition of two words. Felipe, Alipino. So when you join Felipe Alipino, it comes out the Filipino. And in case if it is a female, so you should say Felipe Alipina. So it becomes Filipina. So all of you here, do you like these words? And if you like this word, are you still freedom? Do you still call Yoba Kalayan? Because you are still the subject of King Felipe. You are the slaves of the King Felipe. Because that's the meaning of the Filipino and Filipina. And that's the meaning of the Filipinas. There's a place where the rule of the King Felipe is still ongoing. And it's ongoing because the religion they give you by terrorizing you is still continuing. The idol worship. Not to believe in one God, but believe in Trinity. Not to worship the true God, the Creator, who is unseen, who is only one, who is not in need of anything, does not need to eat or drink or sleep, who has no son and who has no father, who is only one, and who is not comparable to anyone. Not like heaven, not like earth, not like sun and moon, not like human, not like animals. No comparability. So that's the true God which your forefathers were used to believe. And as Professor Benji, he just reminded me a very good word which the people in Batangas are still chanting. Whenever they surprise, they say Allahi. Allahi. Because even the Spanish terrorize them and change them and convert them and traumatize them, but this is the word is in their mouth. And they always say Allahi, my God, to Allah. So you were used to be a Malay race and you were used to be the Muslim, but someone terrorized you. Someone killed your forefathers and raped your women and terrorized you to change you from Muslim to Catholics. They changed your culture, which was very conservative culture. The women were very conservative before, but they changed those conservative style to the open style, moral style, or shameless style. As you know, there are second terrorists here. The second nation who terrorized here were Japanese. And I read in the books of the history, the Japanese were terrorizing people by murder. They were terrorizing the women by rape. And there were many conservative women on that time, they don't want to be raped. They rather agreed to be killed by the Japanese. And the Japanese killed them. And I even read, sometimes they cut their breast with their sword. They terrorized the women. They raped the women. The Japanese were raping the women, and there are many women, they prefer to die, but not to be raped by the Japanese. But can you imagine today, what the culture today? The fathers are sending their daughters to Japan. Jihad. The fathers are sending their daughters to Japan, and the government is giving the visa. What is the visa? Entertainers. What kind of entertainment? Sexual entertainment? Body entertainment? What kind of entertainment? Where is the conservation one? Where is the conservative life when your forefathers were Muslims and they were believing in one God and they were following the prophets, and the women were following the Mary, the mother of Jesus. You look the mother of Jesus, she doesn't look like a Catholic woman, but she looked like a Muslim woman because she was indeed a Muslim woman. So I don't think so that you should be influenced by the media and still think that we are terrorists. We are not terrorists. I already explained it from the Quran. I already explained it with the history. And I can even explain to the modern time, to the recent time. If you have eyes to see, you can see it very well. You can see it very well. There is no Muslim in the whole world today, no Muslim, who attacked in America, in USA. There is only one incident, which is well known, which is 9/11. But the 9/11 is not proven yet. It's not proven yet. In fact, when you go and research on the internet, you will find many theories. One among is the conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory said the 9/11 was an inside job. It was done by America itself. Some say maybe it was done by the Jews, the Judeo. And there are so many other theories. So 9/11 is not confirmed that it was done by the Muslims. But America already done it, and they already killed in Iraq, in Afghanistan, more than 1 million Muslims. They bombed the houses, they bombed the schools, the mosques, everywhere they bombed. And they are keep on bombing. Sometimes the one bomb is 20,000 tons. 20,000 tons. And they still call the Muslims a terrorist. And we accept there are some Muslims who are Muslim by name, and then they did something wrong. But we condemn. We say that's wrong. They should not do this because it's against Islam. There is a big problem today that was happened here 2 weeks ago, I think, or 3 weeks ago. In the EDSA there was a bombing. So I am here now to condemning that was a wrong action. That was the act of terrorism. And I say that whoever did this bombing in EDSA is far to call him a Muslim. You even cannot call him a human. That is our declaration here. And that's our declaration to the whole world. The person who do this kind of actions is not even to call them Muslim, not even to call them a human. They are not human. They are even not called, it is not even right to call them animals. They are worse than animals. They have no religion. They have no faith. They are crazy people. And the another thing is that before you accuse that is done by the Muslim, there must be evidence. There must be the evidence. There is no evidence. And sometimes the accusation is coming direct to the Muslims because of the media. So that's unfair. Because even the law of Islam or even the law of the Philippines or law of any country, the suspect or a person is not guilty unless you prove it. You cannot execute him. You cannot prosecute because you need to prove first. When you prove him, now you can punish him. Then you can say that he is a criminal. He did this crime. He did this terrorism. Or he did this bombing. Because there must be a process. There must be he should be proven to guilty. There must be the witness. Not only the eyewitness, there are some other methods like fingerprints, or maybe you can have the DNA test that on the site there was a DNA test of so-and-so person and he was suspect, and then you can make your investigation, the forensic science. But just to openly say it was done by the Muslims, that's not fair. That's unfair. There should be justification. There should be a process of court. There should be a person should be guilty, and then he will be accused and he should be punished. And you have a punishment for those kind of people. I don't know what's the law in the Philippines, but the Quran says, إنما جزاء الذين يحاربون الله ورسوله ويسعون في الأرض فسادا أن يقتلوا أو يسلبوا أو تقطع أيديهم وأرجلهم من خلاف أو ينفوا من الأرض ذلك جزاء في الدنيا وفي الآخرة عذاب عظيم ذلك خزي في العذاب حياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة عذاب عظيم. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, surely the punishment for those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and those who make the mischief on the earth. They should be killed. So number one is they should be killed. Or they should be either crucified. So we have a punishment of crucifixion. That either to kill in the public, to that man who is making this bombing, kill him in the public, so no one will repeat this again. Or either crucify him in the public again. Or if you want to get even the worst kind of punishment for him, the Quran suggests, the Quran gives the option here from God Almighty Allah, cut his one arm from this side and cut his leg from this side. Or cut this arm and cut this leg. Then he walk like this. He is in the front of the people. And the people will say he is a mischief maker. So no one will make mischief. You want a peaceful earth. You want to live peacefully. That's what the universe is now. The universe is peacefully because they are according to the command of the Creator. But we human beings are not on the command of the Creator, so we have a problem in the world. But if we go to the command, there will be no problem. The governments, they allow alcohol, but Islam does not allow alcohol. Because once you have alcohol, you have a murder. The person with affect with alcohol, he can kill, he can rape, and he can do anything. But Islam does not allow, because Islam is for peace. So, the Spanish and the Japanese and American, they make terrorism here. You will never find the history the Muslims did the terrorism. That's explained a while ago. But even today, you can see the Muslims are killed in Palestine. The Israeli tanks are throwing the bombs in Gaza, in the Muslim places. And the Muslim children, they have stones to throw to the tanks of Israel. And the Israeli call them terrorists. And how is the injustice world today? For example, if the Professor Aragon, who is look like Albert Einstein, so if he is in his house in BF Homes, and then someone comes inside the house, and then he shoot to Professor Aragon, and then after that he control his house, and he killed the other family members. Now the children of Professor Aragon knock the door. When they knock the door, they find someone open. They don't know who is this stranger. Now they say, "Why you are here and what you doing in our house?" He said, "No, that's my house. Get out from here." So the children of Professor Aragon is outside the house. So every time that man comes out, they throw a stone to him. Because they say, "You are unjust. You kill our parents and you got our house, and now you are not giving back to our house." So these children the children of Professor Aragon is throwing a stone at that man. And that man is called the police now and he said, "These are the terrorists." Is it right? Or it's not right? It's not right. It's unfair. Because these children should have a justice. And this man should be put in the jail. Because he killed and he controlled the house. And there's the same situation in Palestine. The Jew, the Judeo, they were used to live in Europe before the World War II. They were making the businesses there, and they are the one who make this interest business, and they are the one who introduce this deception of the currencies and etc. All these things were done by the Jews in Europe. But when Hitler started to kill them, they went back to Palestine. They went back to Jerusalem. And they asked the Muslim brothers, "Can we live here again? Can you permit us?" The Muslims said, "Ahlan wa sahlan marhaba. Come here, you live here. We give you our land again." So after the few years, the Israeli, the Yehudi, the Judeo, they kill the Muslims and they get out them. They control the Jerusalem and they control the most of the part of the Holy Land. And now when the Muslims they give us back our house and they stone, and the Israelis attacking with the tanks and the missiles and the rockets, and the Muslims have only stones, same like the Prophet David, when he stoned to the Goliath, the same situation the Muslims have today like the Prophet David. And then these people, the media, which is controlled by the Judeo, by the Jew, they call these Muslims are terrorists. And if there is a one Muslim, he lives in the Palestine, and there was a bomb thrown by the Israeli plane, and that young man, 15 or 16 or 17 years of age, very unmatured mind, and very frustrated, and he don't know how to control his anger, he has lack of patience. Now we see what he sees. His mother was killed. His father was killed. His brothers, sisters were killed. Everyone is killed in his family. And even if he was married and he has a children, his wife and children were killed. Maybe he's 20 years, 24 years, and he's frustrated. And he has no patience. So do you think that this person, there is a possibility he might lose his mind? There is a possibility, because it's a human. Because when I see his mother, his father, his brother, his sister, his wife, his children, everyone was killed by the Israeli bomb. So he become a crazy now. And then he can do anything. He can kill himself or he can kill someone because he become crazy. But not everyone. We are not allowed to be crazy. We are not allowed to be reactionist in that way. We should control ourselves. It's prohibited in Islam to wild your anger, and should not go for injustice, should not go for killing of innocent human being. If they kill innocent human being, we are not allowed to retaliate with the same. But we are allowed to go in the right way. So I explained I give some example, like in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in just now recently, the war by the Bush had already killed more than 1 million Muslims. So you can understand now who is the terrorist today, not the Muslims. The Muslim, if there are some Muslims, maybe few numbers of Muslims, if they are killing, maybe it cannot reach for 1,000 in whole year, in whole world, not even 1,000. But the non-Muslims, the USA and their allies, they already killed more than 1 million Muslims in last 10 years. And the history is evident. The America killed 5 million Vietnamese. They are the one who threw the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They killed the people in the Philippines and they used them And there were the 500 ships of America in Leyte Gulf from where they were throwing the bombs. And in one day in Tokyo, Japan, the American planes, they throw 20,000 tons of TNT. The weapons, 20,000 tons. 20,000 tons of bombs in a day to Tokyo City. And that's not terrorism. Who were killed in the Tokyo City? Was the Japanese army were killed? No, the people, the civilians. 20,000 tons in a day. In retaliation, the Japanese were introduced the kamikaze attacks. I was watching in the History Channel. The kamikaze attack, one plane, two Japanese, they hit to the American fleet, to the American ship. And almost the 500 ships were damaged. And that's the time the President of America, I think the Frederick Truman, he decided to throw the atomic bomb. One to Hiroshima and one to Nagasaki. And they say that if you not stop the war, we will kill you all. We will bomb every city of Japan. Is it not a terrorism? Is not a definition of terrorism to terrorize the innocent civilian human beings? They terrorize the innocent civilian human beings in Japan, in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and all around the world. And nobody is calling it terrorism. It's unfair. The Hitler, there is no one, or maybe if you can get the greatest name of the terrorist, you can give one of the name is Adolf Hitler. He was not a Muslim. He was born in the Christian family. Joseph Stalin in Russia, he killed millions of people. The Joseph Stalin in Russia, he was not Muslim. He born in a Christian family, later he became a communist, he became atheist. The Mao Zedong in China, he killed the millions of people for the communist power. The Mao Zedong was not Muslim. Where are all those terrorist names you can count? You will not find the Muslims. You will not find the Muslims there. But this is the number of terrorists are the Muslims. That's the media work. That's how the media can show you the black into white and white into black. But if you have eyes to see, and if you have ears to hear, and if you have heart and mind to understand, then see the truth. We are not terrorists. We are not murderers. We are peace lovers. We don't kill. Even today, there is a website, and this website says there are 46 million abortions in the world today, which is known as a legalized abortion, where the USA government, China government, the European countries government, they allow abortion. They terrorize the small babies in the wombs of mother. 46 million abortion. They call it abortion, a beautiful term. Abortion, you don't like to born this baby. But the real term is infanticide. Like suicide, so there is infanticide. They make infanticide 46 million legally, but if you go legal and illegal, it might reach for 100 million babies in a year killed. And no Muslim is doing this, because it's not allowed in Islam. Because it's not allowed in Islam to have boyfriends and girlfriends, so you will not go for the abortion. Because it's a conservative life in Islam. So you decide to marry, then you have to produce the children, no abortion. In the Philippines, I read the magazine, the popular magazine, and the magazine had the research. That lady, she put the research in that magazine, and she said, in Philippines there are more than 1 million abortions yearly. In Philippines. And who is doing these abortions? Not Muslims. Do you know that? Where you can buy the medicine for abortion? In all the Philippines, the number one wholesale market. The biggest market for medicines for abortion. Yung gamot para sa laglag. Quiapo. Saan sa Quiapo? And then we are terrorists. We are the terrorists. How is justice now? Where is the justice now? The people outside the Catholic Church, and that's the biggest Catholic Church in the Philippines, Black Nazareth. And they're selling, there are hundreds of vendors, they sell and they put the cartolina and they say, gamot para sa laglag. And there is no action. I'm inviting all of you. Can you join us? We go to them and we make the rally against them. And we talk to them that stop this right now. Don't kill the babies. They have no sin. Give them the right to live. They have to come in this world. They are not going to eat your food, but the God will provide them. They will work. It's not we ourselves are fed, but God is feeding us, and God is going to feed those children. So you don't need to kill those children. You can go and check just Quiapo Church, very near from here, I think walking distance maybe. You can go and check outside the Quiapo Church and you find people there selling the medicine for the abortion. And we are against that. Because in Islam, we are not allowed to kill human, neither we are allowed to kill even the animals. Unless we want to eat them. If I want to eat the cow, I should say in the name of Allah, then I kill that cow and I eat. And I can eat with, I can share with everyone. Or we are allowed to kill the animals for the second reason is for our protection. Like a snack, the ahas. I can kill it because otherwise it's going to kill me. It's going to harm to me and my families and to other people. So we have these two reasons to kill animals. Either for our food, the cow, the goat, the sheep, the chicken, or either we kill the animal for our protection. But otherwise we are not allowed. Those people who are shooting the birds, it's prohibited in Islam. So I think that's maybe time was given to me by Professor around 15 minutes, I think for 5 minutes more, so I can just conclude. At the other side, Hitler, he was also killing, and there were 330 million Russian Red Army were killed to take control of the Berlin. But the Hitler's army were killed in Siberia because of the freezing cold, minus 50 degrees centigrade. So the Hitler lost, and then this Russia became superpower, and they were allies. The India, China, North Korea, Yugoslavia, Ukraine, Austria, Poland, the most of the world. And the Muslims defeated the Russia, and they have the favor to the whole world for this big terrorist, the biggest terrorism of the humankind, the Russians, the communists, and there is no communism power today. But now there is another superpower, the USA, and they are now the biggest terrorists, and they are terrorizing the people. And there was a very good thing happened when the Philippine army was the part of Iraq war, which is so-called the war on terror, which is not the war on terror, but it's because America in itself is the biggest terrorist. It was against the war on Muslims and Islam. And the first country who backed out to be allies of America was the Philippines. They backed out. They bring back their 50 troops to Philippines, and they say we don't want to be part of the war on terror. So that was a very, very good action done by the government of the Philippines. They bring back their 50 troops. Otherwise, maybe those 50 troops are supposed to die already. As happening today, the British and UK and all those armies are dying in Afghanistan. They are dying. So this another superpower is also going for its egg already. Because whenever you make injustice and you make terrorism and you kill innocent human beings, God will punish you. And you will be held this punishment. All those tyrants, all those terrorists in the world, they got their punishment. So we should not be, here the people I request, don't believe blindly, but make research. Think before you accuse someone. If someone calls you a terrorist, or someone calls you a killer, or murderer, or rapist, what do you feel? You feel bad. You must be offended. You say, why do you accuse me? You have no proof. So we Muslims say to all of you and to all the world, don't accuse without the proof. Don't accuse without the evidence. Be just. Because if you are just, then you will be right. If you are not just, then you will be wrong. So there are many things more. I did not read all my homework here. It's almost 9 pages here. I just speak whatever I think was necessary. Inshallah, we can have the next time the other program in your hall, maybe even 1,000 or 2,000 people. That will be much better. So if there are any questions, I am willing to answer. Even if it can be criticized or attacking us, there is no problem.
Before the open forum, I'd like to say two things. One, I remember in one historical conference, perhaps 5 years ago or 8 years ago, there was a question from a public school teacher, history teacher. He said, could we also say that the Muslims, when they arrived here, they colonized us? When they arrived in the south, no? From Mindanao going up. And then there was a consensus among historians. No? I was also there. It was a historical conference of Adita. No? a National Historical Association. And it was a consensus that we cannot say that they colonized us in the same way that the Westerners colonized us. Because the Spanish terrorized us, no? And they used the sword. The Americans also waged war against us. They also terrorized us. But the Muslims, when they spread their religion, they did it peacefully, with trade and with peaceful talks. So parang, so ito sa consensus, we cannot say it as being colonized. Because it is a different approach, a peaceful approach. So I affirm what he said. No? At the same time, I'd like to also add that when the Americans conquered us, Filipino historians estimate that around 250,000 Filipinos were killed, directly and indirectly because of the Philippine-American War. But we never called them terrorists. When America decided to drop the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, you know, those cities are like Manila, Pasay. No? Most of the residents are civilians. There is a military camp, no? Perhaps a political capital, but 90% of the people there are civilians. So when they drop the atomic bomb, they kill innocent civilians. And yet they were never called terrorists. So with that, I would like to first, I'd like to call my colleague, Professor Magluba, who will react positively or negatively, and then we will have an open forum with the students.
Some of the books we can call anti-Islam, not friendly with Islam, claims that in the Quran itself, there are various interpretations, and there are some groups that interpret Islam differently. That's why you have the Al-Qaeda, who uses the same text of the Quran to justify their actions. And you have Abdul Siddiq here, who quotes the Quran in a different light. So, is there a problem here of interpreting the same text? But such interpretation will depend now on your agenda or your intent. Because here is the book, you have quotations here, but the same book is being used by other so-called, quote-unquote, extremists to justify their actions. At the same time, the more moderate Muslims use the same group to condemn the extremists. But the same group are using the same book.
Okay. It's a very good question. That if there are some extremist groups and they interpret the Quran wrongly, and then they are justifying some wars, for example, there are some texts, not some, there are many texts about the war in the Quran. There are many texts. This is the Quran. You can have many texts about the wars. There is no problem about it. Even when you read the Bible, you will find many things about the war. The wars in the old time, even the time of the Jesus they to take the sword. So there are sometimes war, of course. But the war is for justice, not for injustice. For example, there are many occasions, there are many times when you need to have a war. For example, you are living in a community, or like you are living in the Luzon and Visayas and Mindanao, for example. So when the Magellan came here, Ferdinand Magellan, when he came here and he wanted to terrorize people here, and he wanted to colonize, and he wanted to murder and rape and do all bad things in this land, so there were people who fight back, like Lapu-Lapu. And of course, when you read the point of view of the Spanish, they should call the Lapu-Lapu as a terrorist. But do you call him terrorist? Do you call Lapu-Lapu a terrorist? No, you don't call him terrorist. Because he's fighting for the justice. Because somebody comes in his land and they want to occupy his land. So he fights back. So in Islam, In Islam or in the interpretation of the Quran, there are wars, but for the justice. Not for the killing of innocent human beings, or killing of the women or children or the old men. No. In Islam there is a war, but the war is for justice. And war is between armies. The civilian must be excluded. But there are some incidents. For example, if someone comes in your country, like the American allies, they go to Afghanistan, they're fighting to the innocent people there. They're bombing them. So the people have right to defend. So it is not the terrorism, but they're defending. They're defending the land, or in Iraq, or any part of the world. For example, when America attacked the Vietnam, and they killed 5 million people, innocent people in Vietnam. So the people in the Vietnam, they have to fight to defend themselves, and that's not a terrorism. The only person who speak against America was a Muslim, the Muhammad Ali, a boxer. He speak, no, this is the wrong war, it's unjust war. The Americans have no right to kill innocent human beings. So now, there are some extremists who misinterpret, or maybe they can say the Quran said to have a war, so we should go and bomb. No, that's the wrong interpretation. That's not the way. That's not allowed. You cannot bomb the civilian targets. You cannot bomb the malls or buses or houses or the buildings. No, that's not allowed, totally not allowed. When the Prophet Muhammad was in Mecca, they were abused and oppressed, and there were so many injustices to them. Finally, they migrated to Medina, and the Prophet Muhammad established an Islamic state based on justice. And then there was a time with the 10,000 troops, he went back to Makkah, and he conquered the Makkah without bloodshed. Because everybody surrendered, so he announced nobody will be killed. Because now the justice is done. So after that, he removed all the idols there. So if there are some extremists, they use the misinterpretation of the Quran for their wrongdoings, for their killing of innocent human beings. That's the wrong interpretation. I can challenge all of you here. There's a Quran, we can even give you the Quran in English translation. Check it and tell me if there is any injustice in the Quran. If there is anything we say you are allowed to kill the innocent human being, you will never find it. There is about the war, but the war for justice and between the armies. The civilians must be excluded. If you are living in a civil society, you should not make any violence. I'm living in a civil society, I should not make any violence. Even my brother is killed, for example, I cannot go and kill that person because that will be violence. That will be violence, and violence is prohibited in Islam. The mission making is prohibited in Islam. So rightly said by the professor, if some extremists are using misinterpretation of the Quran, so that's wrong. But if you read it, the Quran very clearly, you cannot misinterpret it, because they are making the wrong translation for their own agenda. Maybe if they are truly like that people. But the most of the time in media is it's a false news. It's just a black propaganda. But if there are some Muslims, extremists, by the way, there is no extremist Muslims and there is no moderate Muslim actually. There are Muslims or not the Muslim. If somebody is misusing the Islam, he is not a Muslim. Because extremism, from my point of view, I am extremely loving, I am extremely kind, I am extremely just. Is it wrong to be extremely kind? Because I'm an extremist Muslim, for example. So I am extremely kind. I am extremely loving. I am extremely just. Is it wrong to be extremely just? Or is it wrong to be extremely loving? Or is it wrong to be extremely kind? No. Is it wrong to be extremely charitable? Is it wrong to be extremely generous? No. I am extremely generous. So there is no problem. Sometimes you have to be extreme in good things. But the extreme to killing the innocent human being, that's prohibited in Islam. And it is not only just a prohibition. I start with my lecture, the words of the Quran, as if you kill the whole mankind. And if you save the life of one human being, as if you kill the life of one mankind. I hope that I answered properly. Anything else?
Yes, now we can have an open forum from the students, and you can ask any question. We will entertain 35 questions. You may ask anything about Islam.
Even you can attack, you can criticize, there is no problem. So you will be clear. Your mind will be clear. Don't be shy. That's important. That's a very good thing that you do.
I have a question.
You can stand better.
I have a question on social science.
I said you look like even a student.
Thank you. Well, other than the terrorist label, what are the other biggest misconceptions on Islam and the Muslim world in general?
There are many. There are many. Why? But of course, if you are going to speak with this, there will be a big problem, and there will be too much time. Because there are many issues that the non-Muslims are asking to us. For example, that's the number one, Islam, Jihad and terrorism. That's the best topic Professor Ragon or Mr. Albert Einstein choose the best topic. But there are many things like why the Muslim men allowed to have more wives. That's the most common question also. Why the Muslims are subjugating the women? And we have a very good answer, and when we give this answer, you will be say yes, that's right. Because the Muslims are not subjugating the women, rather we are giving our women like lives of the princess. We revere them, we respect them, we give them very good lives. The Muslim women, if the true Muslim, their women are free from any obligation, financial obligation, nothing at all. Even this woman is a multi-millionaire, she has no need to use a single penny for the financial needs. She is free. Because a man is strong, so she should work. He should work. She is not stronger in the family, so she should be exclusive for any financial obligation. There are many other things. If you want the woman to cover, that is for her protection. Because if she is opening, for example, those women who are in the Philippines, you can see, if they are wearing the wrong attire, they are teased. They are watched by the bad eyes. And in example, America is very open society. So the women has no clothes, example at all. They are almost like naked. Can you imagine with the America, and they say they have a solution for the world with their democratic laws, but I say nothing because I research. If you have internet available with your laptop or your PCs, go to www.fbi.gov, and you can see in America there are 3,000 women raped every day. Why they are raped? Because they are inviting to be raped. They invite people to rape them because they are exposing. So once you expose in a public the women, the people, they are not protected anymore. So America can do nothing. There are more than 1 million women raped in America every year. But America will do nothing for that solution. But Islam gives a solution. And regarding why the Muslim man is allowed to have more than one wife, 2, 3, 4, the Quran said, if you can do justice, the Quran said marry 2, 3 or 4. But if you cannot do justice, then only one. So it's only allowed with the condition, if you can afford. Or in Tagalog, kaya buhayin. But you can see all around the world today, the monogamy law is not introduced by the women, it's introduced by the men. Why? Because they want freedom. Because they can only marry one wife and they can have so many mistresses without obligation. But in the case of the Islam, when you have a one wife and you have a 2 or 3 or 4, you have not only one wife but 2, 3 or 4, you have the obligation for all those wives. The children will be protected. But in the case of the Philippines now, the 90% men in the Philippines, non-Muslim men, more than 90% men are polygamists. But they have only one wife, but they have so many mistresses, or in Tagalog, kabit. But those women, they have no protection by the law. If the men die, they cannot go to the municipality even to get the birth certificate under the name of the father. They cannot get any inheritance. But Islam gives the solution. The women population is very much high in compared to the men. Because the man is always dying in the wars, in the accidents, in the fightings, and even in the jail. If you go to the Manila jail, you find 95% are the men. So men is always reducing. In the World War II or World War I included, more than 100 million people were died, and there were men. So men is reducing. Not only because of the death, there are other aspects like the most of the men in the West today, or even in the Philippines nowadays, it's a trend now, the men don't like to marry, they want freedom. They don't like to marry. So now, if the men stop to marry, the women have more problem now to get married. Plus, there is another big problem now, which is known as homosexuals, sodomites, the gays. Now if the gays, like in example in America, there are 50 million gays. So 50 million women will have no husband now. Because these 50 million are the gays already. Plus these 50 million will hunt another man. So more problem for women. Can you imagine now, like in Philippines, there are millions of gays. So this gay, he don't like to marry to women. So women cannot get married now. Now this gay, they will go to another man. So the man is more reduced now. So where the women can go now? The solution is in Islam. If the one man has more wives, and then the woman can have the husband with dignity, not to be a mistress or kabir, but wife. So Islam is giving the solution for the woman. The woman should think of that law. That law is for women, and the man does not know this, does not like this law, because if they have a monogamy law, they only have one wife and they can have so many mistresses without obligation. But Islam allows you to have second, third, or fourth wife, but you should have obligation for them to give the equality. So these are some other questions. Anything else?
If I may add, Abdul has two happy wives. They're equally treated and doubly fed. What time? Sunday is for himself. So
No. Sunday also, it must be equal. So in Islamic law, you can have the every other day. If you have, or either you can have weekly, but it must be equality. It's not that the man can go anywhere he likes, no, but there must be equality. So every other day, or you can make every week, or you can make every month, it must be equality. So not is the man, he go today and then he go again the same day, the other wife is not allowed in Islam. It must be with the schedules, with the schedules. So question by students or by...
I'm sure it's still there, then what happened?
I have 2 houses. The condition it must be 2 houses, or 3 or 4. If the man have 2 wives, there must be 2 houses. In 3, there must be 3 houses. And there must be equality with everything.
Can we one more?
I think what would be needed to clarify would be the difference between the Al-Jihad al-Asghar and Al-Jihad al-Akbar.
Okay, that's a very, very nice question. Very good. That's I supposed to speak also. I'm sorry I did not speak about this. The Prophet Muhammad said that the Jihad Akbar is the greater jihad. Because I explained already the meaning of jihad is a struggle. So struggle can be a war, struggle can be struggle for goodness or for justice or to spread Islam. So I think you are a professor also. Okay. So the Jihad Akbar is a greater jihad, and Jihad Asghar is a smaller jihad. So Jihad Akbar in Islam, what the Prophet Muhammad taught us is to fight your own self. To fight your own self. I have to fight my own self. I have to stop myself to make anything wrong. For example, if a man he has a chance to cheat someone and he can earn for 1 million pesos right away. If he cheat this, it's just a small lie he has to speak. But now he fight himself. He said, no, I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to lie. So he is fighting himself. He is struggling against his own self, and that's the greatest jihad. For example, it's prohibited in Islam that men have a sexual relation with a woman. She is not the wife. It's prohibited. Now, example, if the man is in a 5-star hotel, and the most beautiful woman in the Philippines is in the room now, and all the luxury in the room now, the food is there, the juices are there, the soft drinks there, the nuts are there, everything is there, whatever you like to enjoy now. And he has the most beautiful girl here in his room, and he's alone, and no one can see him except the God, Almighty Allah. Now he said, I'm not going to do this sexual relation because it's prohibited. This is adultery. So he get out from the room, and I can say that's the greatest jihad because he is fighting himself from his false desire. So that's the explanation of jihad. But that when you fight your own self, that is the greatest jihad. That's the greatest struggle when you fight to your own self. So I hope that I answered very well. I think that the students must ask questions because it's all the professor asking. No student yet.
It's the first time that we're in this speaker facility.
Your friend?
Can we have one more question from the students? Yes.
I have a question about extremist and yung moderate. Kasi CNN and BBC are using those terms, and I think it's offensive for the Muslim. Do you think that considering extremist Muslims as, for example, the ones who are practicing that terrorist acts, they call, and defending it through the Quran, they are being called extremists, and they're not so extremists. So I think it's very offensive. Can you say your opinion?
Yeah, because that's what I said when the first reaction from Professor Mendy. There is no such thing in Islam. the extremist Muslim or moderate Muslim. No. The Muslim is Muslim, either he is not Muslim. There is no other thing. Because if somebody is extremist and he abuses the Islam, we call him not Muslim anymore. He's out of Islam because he's abusing the Islam. Because Islam said very clearly, it's not allowed to kill any innocent human being. So the bombing is prohibited. Regarding the suicide bombing, for example, the Prophet Muhammad said, if someone killed himself, suicide, by some metal to his stomach, to his abdomen, or he hung, or he jumped from the mountain, or he take poison, the Prophet Muhammad said, in the next life, when he alive again, he will go in the hellfire forever. He will never get out from the hellfire. So if somebody put the bomb jacket, and he go and he just remote control and he blow himself, he's going to the hellfire. So he is not extremist Muslims. The right term, he's not a Muslim because he don't know what is Islam. Because the one of the definition of the Islam, the Muslim, the Prophet Muhammad said, the Muslim is the one from his hand and from his tongue, the others are safe. That's the one of the meaning of Muslim. Muslim is the protective. The one of the meaning of Muslim is the one who is protective for the community. So rather if I am the true Muslim, I should not harm people, rather I should benefit people. That's the definition of Muslim. So there is no term like extremist Muslims and moderate Muslims, because there are some occasions when you have to be extremist. For example, if I love, I should be loved extremely. If I kind, I should be kind extremely. If I am generous, I should be extremely generous, or extremely charitable, or extremely kind. So there is no problem with sometimes to be extreme in some good things. But there are something, for example, Islam teaches us, when you are spending the money, don't be extravagant. Because if you are extravagant, later you become bankrupt. So in that case, you have to be moderate. You have to spend your money moderately. So in some cases, we have to be moderate. Like example, the Prophet Muhammad taught us, when you eat moderately. Don't just eat up to here, so you cannot breathe anymore. Because the Prophet Muhammad taught us, when you eat, the one third of your stomach is for the food, 1/3 for the water, and 1/3 for the air. But what the people do, even some Muslims, they do like this. They eat and they drink, and after that is here. And now they go to doctor. So what doctor can do with you now? Because you are killing yourself. You are destroying yourself. You think that's your own stomach, that's not the stomach of someone else. So you feel it moderately. So in some cases, there are some actions must be done moderately, and some action in Islam must be done extremely, like extremely loving or extremely kind, or extremely charitable or extremely generous. But there are some occasion where Islam teaches us to be moderate. But there is no such term in Islam, extremely Muslim, extremist Muslim, or moderate Muslim. There is no such thing in Islam.
One more question.
I would just like to ask for your opinion regarding the disposition of Egypt right now.
Yeah. It's a good question because that's my lecture 2 weeks ago in the Jummah, in Friday, in our Friday ceremony. That you can see the problem in Egypt now, you can see the problem in Tunisia, you can see in the Yemen, you can see problem all around the Muslim world. And maybe you can ask me then how can Islam can solve the problem when the Muslim countries have the problems, correct? That must be another question coming out from your question. When the Muslim countries have the problem, like Argentina is not Muslim country and they were able to change 5 presidents in a week. There was happened something like that. 5 presidents changed in Argentina in 1 week. The same thing in the Chile or in Cuba or all around the world, because the non-Muslim countries or Muslim countries, the both are not using the Islamic law. The Egypt has no Islamic law. The Pakistan, my country, has no Islamic law. Or the Malaysia or Indonesia or Tunisia or Algeria or Sudan. No Muslim country on the face of the earth which is applying the Islamic law. So we have no example, but we have the example of the past. If you go and see the history, the Muslim implemented Islam and there was justice, there was economical justice, there was a social justice, and all kinds of justice was implemented by the Islam. But if you ask me an example, so I can see that you can see myself. I do my best to be just, I do my best to be kind, and I do my best to implement Islam on myself, to my families and my people. But if you ask me as a state, as a country, the Egypt or all those Muslim countries, they are not implementing the Islamic law. So they are not, by law, they are not Muslim countries. But by population, you can say they are Muslim countries. So that's the answer which I can give. So anything else, I think the student must be courageous. You should be brave to ask, not too afraid. Because we are not terrorists.
If I may say something in connection with the extremists, the moderates, what is the right interpretation, what is the wrong interpretation, good interpretation, bad interpretation. I think one way to find out is that we must consider that Muhammad, just like Buddha, Jesus, no? They were holy people. They were spiritual teachers. Do you think a spiritual teacher will tell his followers, okay, you kill those people who are against us, kill also their sons, the children, and their sisters, and the wives? A holy person will not do that. Sometime I was talking with a mother who was bringing up his son. No? He said, that that is to give him a sense of discipline. And I said, you're a Christian. Do you think Jesus will tell you that? Okay, you beat him up, so you can teach him discipline. So one way to find out what's right and what's wrong is to get into the mind of the spiritual teacher. If you're a Buddhist, you think Buddha will say that? You think Muhammad will say that? Okay, you kill also the innocent children? You think a spiritual teacher will say that? So that is one way to find out what is a good interpretation and a bad interpretation of the spiritual teaching, of the spiritual teachers. I think it's time to have closing remarks. I would like to call on our chairman of the Social Science Department, Professor Carl Ramota.
Before the closing remarks for this morning's forum, allow me to give this certificate of appreciation to our guest speaker. Let me read the citation. Department of Social Sciences, College of Arts and Sciences, University of the Philippines, Manila, presents this certificate of appreciation to Mr. Abdul Razzaq Siddiq in grateful recognition of his valuable contribution as a speaker in this public forum, Islam, Jihad, and Terrorism, given this 8th day of February 2011 during the Linggo ng Agtampang Lipunan at the Rizal Hall, Room 313, College of Arts and Sciences, UP Manila, signed Professor Carl Ramota, the chair of the department, and Dr. Reynaldo H. Imperial, the dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Abdul Razzaq Siddiq. For the closing remarks, again, I'd like to recognize the efforts of Professor Danilo Aragon, who initiated this activity, and also to acknowledge the presence of other colleagues in the department, Professor Benji Mamumbat, Professor Arnold Esguerra, Professor Alan Messina. Earlier, we had other colleagues from the DSS, and also to the students of these teachers of the department. And also the guests or the delegation of our speaker, Mr. Abdul Siddiq. From what I heard from his discussion earlier, it only proves one thing, that control, this is one of the cardinal principles in politics, that control over meaning-making process, communication process is in itself a footprint of power. We wonder, whenever we read newspapers or listen to the radio, or other news reportage in broadcast media, whenever a person killed someone or committed a felony or a crime, and if he is a Muslim, news reporters will always label them as Muslim criminals. But if a Christian or other religion or a member of another religion committed a crime or the same felony, you don't read it in newspapers with the label they are Christian criminals. Especially, for example, in the media, he was right when he opened this discussion. He was right in saying that the media really vilified the Muslim world. And there is one particular reason. They wanted to project an enemy to justify something. And it's now, we don't have to be experts in the field of social sciences or international relations to know the reason behind such propaganda war, which is still being waged by propagandists coming from the U.S. and other Western nations. In 2003, when the U.S. waged its so-called borderless war, or war against terrorism, and targeted the government of Saddam Hussein, particularly in Iraq, and even before that, in 2001, when it targeted the Taliban regime in Afghanistan, they were all towing the same line, that was the war against terrorism, and projected our Muslim brothers as the main targets, mainly because they said Al-Qaeda members were Muslim in general. So it was a very myopic, it was a very limited explanation, just saying that practically projecting every Muslim as Al-Qaeda members or every Muslim as terrorists. Probably some of us here, whenever we encounter people who are dressed like this or who have long beards, probably there's this uneasy feeling. Even starting 2003, after or starting 2001, after the 9/11 bombings, the media and other think tanks of the Western world have projected the enemy or the villain as someone who looks like this, someone who looks like the leader of Al-Qaeda, no? Osama bin Laden. And ever since, when we encounter people who look like this, and even for some governments, when they enter airports, although they claim that it's a random search, but if they encounter someone who looks like this, they are subjected to rigorous search process, and they say it's random. That basically is one of the consequences of this ongoing propaganda war, and that is people, not just Muslims, and sometimes even non-Muslims who have long beards or who are dressed in non-traditional Western garment are also subjected to the same discrimination. No? And it only proves one thing: we fear the different. We have prejudices against those who are different from us. And this fear, this prejudice, is in fact the reason why a number of people who are different and are living in countries that have different cultures and races from them are experiencing what we call xenophobia. And these are not just for the Muslims. If you are a person of colored skin, if you are of brown skin or colored skin or black skin, and you live and work in Europe, in other countries which are predominantly Caucasian or American or white skin, you're discriminated upon simply because you are different. Their case is no different from all these cases or instances of discrimination. Because they are Muslims, they are easily labeled as terrorists or as enemies of the entire human race. It's very important for us, it's very enlightening for most of us to hear a Muslim leader, in the person of Mr. Abdul Siddiq, to deliver a lecture or a speech that clarifies a lot of things. Most of these things are probably already known to us, but a number of misconceptions have been clarified this morning. So again, we thank Mr. Siddiq and his delegation for coming here and enlightening us on some issues that have been lingering in our minds, and some questions were addressed. Although we were given little time to explain or to cover all topics, probably a lot of questions are yet to be answered, but that can be arranged in another forum. Everyone for staying and for listening. Mabuhay ang kagawaran ng Panginoon. Mabuhay ang Panginoon.
Thank you very much.
answer will be. It's everything about Allah, the pure love to our souls, the creator of you and me, the heavens and the whole universe, the one that made us whole and free, the guardian of his true believers. So when the time